Mental Health Monday on Radio City Talk. Tackling the stigma.
And welcome back to another edition of Mental Health Monday from Radio City Talk. My name is Mick Coyle and today is episode 50. It's another monumental milestone in our mental health journey here at Radio City Talk, and thanks for downloading us. Thanks for checking us out. We do the show every Monday, and of course, many of you will be aware that last week we embarked on the biggest ever challenge that we've faced when it comes to mental health broadcasting, with the longest ever mental health radio show, and we managed it as well. We started at 9 a.m. on the 15th of January, and we talked non-stop about mental health until 9 a.m. the following morning, a 24-hour broadcast. Now, on the web page of our radio station, radiocitytalk.co.uk, you can find out all about the Mental Health Monday Marathon, how we did it, the guests that we had, and also a lot of the interviews as well. More than 70 people over the course of 24 hours shared their stories. You can check that out via radiocitytalk.co.uk. That's radiocitytalk.co.uk. There's some video links in there, some tweet links in there as well, to our social media on the day, and links as well to the audio of all the interviews that we did over the course of the 24 hours. Deepest thanks to Jake Mills, who made it all possible with him being in the studio with me for 24 hours. Absolutely. And of course, the hard work by the team behind the scenes as well. So producer Lizzie, who's edited this, so if she cuts this bit out, it's her own fault, who was absolutely brilliant making sure that we had all the guests lined up, and the work that she put in on the day to make sure that the guests showed up and that all the guests had drinks and all the guests showed up in the right studio at the right time. Wonderful stuff there. Dave Downey as well, who joined the team to make sure that Monday could happen as well. He was turning audio around, getting stuff online, big on social media. And also Layla Wright, who was doing fantastic stuff with the website and social media, editing videos and turning that around as well. So between myself, Jake, Lizzie, Dave and Layla, I think we did ourselves really proud in terms of what we were able to achieve. And of course, one of the key things to say is that it wasn't a one-off. Mental Health Monday is about talking about mental health every single Monday here on Radio City Talk. And you'll get onto this week's episode with a fantastic guest. Michelle Partington is our special guest today. Plus, we'll hear about an event taking place in the Bluecoat involving art, design and mental health. First up, though, here's a little montage of what we were able to achieve over that 24-hour period. Don't forget, more on these interviews on the website radiocitytalk.co.uk.
Mental Health Monday Marathon with Mick Coyle on Radio City Talk.
Yeah, welcome to Radio City Talk and welcome to the biggest broadcast ever of its kind as we talk about mental health in the mainstream media. My name is Mick Coyle. I'm going to be here for the next 24 hours talking about mental health. That's right, 24 hours of discussion. Some people might be half aware of this story. They may have heard some of the story. They may never have heard the story of former footballer Clark Carlisle, who joins us in the studio now. Clark, it's great to see you.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, Mick. Morning, Jake.
Clark, can I talk about the fact you're back here in the city of Liverpool? Is this the first time you've been back in Liverpool since the park bench?
Yes, it is, yeah. And we drove past Copy Lane Police Station on the way in, which you know, it caught my eye. It's very distinctive. It could have been really quite emotional to come back here. But it follows a theme in our relationship and our lives, because we seem to be revisiting and reclaiming places. You know, a guy who was just driving past, who stopped the car. In fact, he wasn't even driving. He got his mate to stop the car, and he got out and sat next to me and said, "Clark, you know, your family are worried about you, and I'm concerned about you." And he just put his arm around me. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that incredible? In this day and age where we think that people have got no time for anyone, you know, here's this guy who bizarrely had lost a friend just a week or so earlier, and after thinking that he saw me, he said, I just couldn't drive past and not know whether that was you or not, and he just sat with me, what a wonderful example of humanity.
Now, Jake Mills is with us in the studio. We've got Luciana Berger on the line as well, live from Westminster.
1 in 4 of us at any moment will be suffering with our mental health, and yet still it's not treated in the same way as conditions affecting our physical health.
Paul Farmer, Chief Exec of Mind, thank you for your time.
Here we are. I'm so impressed that you're up and running, and I hear you've already had a great start to the show. So congratulations, Mick. And Jake, great to hear. I don't think we know of any show like this ever having been done. So you're heading for the record books in some shape or form.
Joining us now is an ambassador for the Sane Mental Health Charity. I'm very pleased to say former Liverpool striker Stan Collymore joins us on the programme. Stan, thanks for your time.
You're very welcome. It's fantastic. Firstly, to say what a fantastic initiative you guys are involved in. Everybody at Radio City. Just had a chat with Lizzie, I think, who's behind the glass in the studio. Coffee, I think, sweets, Jaffa cake. Get them down here, that'll keep you through the day. The best thing you can do if you're struggling today and know somebody that does is to talk. It makes a difference, I guarantee it.
Joining us in the studio now, very pleased to say, we have podcaster Steph Hennigan. Steph, it's great to see you.
Hello.
Now, Steph, you've been a regular contributor to my programme on Liverpool Live. For the first time, I think this is, from a public point of view, going to talk about your own mental health.
Yes. I'm open about it in that I have suffered from depression in the past and anxiety and how it's affected me, and but I don't broadcast it. I don't make a thing out of it. I think something that I've learned along the way is that depression doesn't define me as a person. It's just something that will happen to me.
Harry from McFly. Harry, it's great to see you. Thanks for coming on the programme.
Thanks for having me. I certainly was not in the army, just to clarify.
But you were in McFly.
Yes.
George McCain and Peter Scott. George, Pedro, thank you for your time. Great to see you.
Nice to see you. The most important word is friendship. That's the most important thing to us. That we love each other. Wow, there's a bit of revolution. We love each other. We really love each other. And we care for each other. And for me, it's something quite beautiful. Actually, it's something quite beautiful. If you want to call today a blue day, we're challenging that. It's a beautiful day today.
Norman Lamb, the Lib Dem MP and a prominent voice when it comes to mental health campaigning. He joins us on the programme now. Norman, thank you for your time.
Hello, Mick. Most impressed by what you're doing today.
It's a pretty epic undertaking that we're going for, Norman, but I think over the course of the hours that we've done so far, it's proved itself very worthwhile in terms of those stories and the stories that we're hearing as well. Two people on the programme now who have written down in blogs about their own mental health experiences and have had an incredible reaction off the back of it. And they are people who you wouldn't traditionally associate with mental health. First one is Dave Downey from the Blue Room and Radio City Talk.
I see people in the tower every day. It's my day job. And the first thing you did when you see me was you just come over and give me a hug, didn't you? And that in itself was just like, maybe I'm just perceiving things completely wrong about the world and my place in it.
It is really difficult to know the words, am I cured? Am I okay? Is it mental health? Am I feeling? It's weird, and I mentioned this in my blog, that maybe it's conversations like this that help. We need to understand that when we say some things, we don't mean them if they come across wrong or they're not quite the words, because this is something new relatively about us talking about this, so we need to allow ourselves that space. But I know there's times where it'll come back and I'm not okay again. I'm just me.
Musician Bill Ryder Jones, thanks for joining us on the Mental Health Monday marathon.
Why I make music is mainly just to make sense of some kind of you can tell I'm not brilliant with words, and music very much is my way of ordering things. It's the best thing in the world, really, to reflect on.
Mental Health Monday Marathon. 24 hours tackling the stigma with Mick Coyle on Radio City Talk.
We have just crossed the halfway point of the 24-hour Mental Health Monday Marathon on Radio City Talk. Good evening. My name's Mick Coyle. I do hope you're well. We've been on air since 9 o'clock this morning talking about mental health alongside Jake Mills from the Chasing the Stigma charity. Danny Sculthorpe is with us in the studio and on the show. Danny, thank you for your time. Former rugby league sensation. Danny, you've said something to me in the past about suicide, which actually we've heard, when I think about it, at least 5 times said today about suicide being a selfish act or not, because you think at the moment and at that moment that actually it's the number one thing that will solve not just your problems but also your family's problems as well.
I think people who do take their own life by suicide are thinking of people that they feel a burden to, or they're letting down, and it's probably the most unselfish thing that you can do. Every minute of every hour of every day was I was going to kill myself, and I couldn't get it out of my mind. But I did what most men do when they start suffering from mental health issues. I kept it to myself. and I was going to take my own life. Now, for some reason, I didn't, whether it was my kids, my wife, my parents that came to me, I couldn't tell you. And I remember going home from the car park that day and putting the drink and the drugs away and just carried on doing what I'd been doing for months. Ignoring my wife, snapping at my kids, being horrible to everyone, until my family noticed a big difference in me. A couple of days after the car park incident, they sat me down and they made me speak about how I was feeling, and that was my turning point, just getting things off my chest and talking.
Joining us on the programme now, Jane Russell is a Liverpool mum. Jane, thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You sent an email through, and I thought, God blimey, Jane has absolutely been through it. You worked here for a little bit of time. We had a right old laugh in the studio 2 doors down from here. You subsequently went on, you had started a family as well. You got your partner in the room as well tonight, and you became a mum. Was it at the point at which your first child was born that you thought something was going wrong, or were you aware of issues through the pregnancy?
Me and Adam have been going to our midwife appointment, and I've been saying I feel like this. And bless her, I just don't think she really had a clue. And she said, your hormones all over the place. So it terrified me. I remember being stood at the train station thinking, oh God, what if I just jump in front of that train? Lovely husband, having a baby. I really, on paper, shouldn't have had anything to feel sad about, but that's the point of it. And people say about people who consider suicide and say about it being selfish. And I never really understood till I was in that position. You're not thinking about your love for your family at that point because you're not thinking rationally. Like, obviously it's an illness. The thoughts are, what they call intrusive thoughts, so they're just coming in, you're trying to fight them, and you're just not thinking like that. I knew I had a family that loved me, but at that moment in time, I just couldn't cope with feeling that awful.
Well, you've been doing phenomenal today. I've come to put a bit of life in the place. You've actually, honestly, it's been really depressing listening. I've got to make a few funnies. It's been great. The whole team, Twitter and Facebook have done phenomenal. It sounded great. Some of the stories that you've had have been amazing. You've made the national newspapers with one of them. It's fantastic.
Angela Samata, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for asking me.
Now, Angela very kindly, Jake, when we first said, I'll absolutely get involved in the Mental Health Monday Marathon, and I will do any time.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we held her to that.
To be honest, when you first told me about the idea, I just thought that's absolutely brilliant and just a great thing to do. And I think, am I right in saying that this is the first time that this has ever been done?
No one's ever done this anywhere.
Oh, my goodness. That's amazing.
Also in the studio, we've got Rachel Kearney. Rachel, a regular contributor to my programme on Liverpool Live on Radio City Talk.
Exactly the same. It was a real honour when Lizzie asked me to get involved, despite the hour, because this is the time when a lot of people who are feeling low are awake and want to hear something positive or to change the way that they feel about things. So absolutely, I'm very, very pleased to be here. So thank you for asking me.
This woman has come into my life and just bowled me over. She loves me to my core, and accepting it's bizarre to say, it's been quite a difficult thing. I've had to change my belief structure around emotions and allowed this person to love me, even though there might be times when I don't feel deserving of it. But also open up my own mind to know that not being perfect is okay.
Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle.
This is Radio City Talk.
And I'm very pleased to say, joining us in the studio for this week's Mental Health Monday, episode 50 of Mental Health Monday, is a contributor to our 24-hour marathon. She was actually a phone-in guest. She's now here in the studio to talk through her story. Michelle Partington. Michelle, thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us on the programme.
My pleasure, thank you.
It's great to see you. So many things to talk about for people who listen to the 24-hour marathon phone-in. You took part in that, so some of the things you touched on, I'm sure, will echo on the programme today. But your story is based around, 1,001 different things, and your life has gone in 1,001 different directions, if you don't mind me saying. In my research in regard to your story, it's absolutely fascinating, and I've got a feeling that people will associate with many different aspects.
Yeah.
If it's not all of them, there'll be different aspects to it as well. But where does it start for you? Is this, in terms of the dream and passion behind a potential military career, where do you want to start with it?
Okay, so I guess it's probably best to start why I joined up. And initially it was to get away from the home environment. There was no bones about that. I ran away from home, I guess. due to various things that happened along the way, which then caused a strain on my mental health initially. So in younger years, it was there. We'd had a careers brief when I was 13 in school from various agencies, including the military. And from then on, I thought I want to do it. So as soon as I could, I was off, you know. And for me, the discipline side and, you know, all the inspections and things like that wasn't a problem because I'd come from a very disciplined background. Excelled in what I was doing, reached the rank of sergeant, then commissioned. And sadly, because I was a paramedic, my tours then changed to Afghanistan frontline service and things. So I then started to struggle with that. After my third tour of Afghan, I basically crashed and burned. I was diagnosed with PTSD, and then I had to leave the RAF after 20 plus years, so I was gutted.
So can we just work out the ages? So you signed up at what point?
19.
19 years of age, and then you served in places like the Falklands, and was it Bahrain you'd been posted as well? So presumably you were having up to that point a, quote, normal military life experience.
I loved the experiences, I loved the people, I loved the challenges, I loved the jobs, you know, it was varied, it was phenomenal. And I'd signed on basically until my retirement age. That's how I viewed. I was doing so well, I was pushing myself every time, I was always entering and exiting that comfort zone to push myself further, you know, and I loved it. I saw myself, that's what I was doing for the rest of my life. So
you felt like you were really thriving. Up until what age then were you thinking, oh, this is everything I ever wanted it to be?
Up until I got diagnosed with PTSD, to be honest with you, and that was in 2015. So I was actually diagnosed in 2012. I actually left the military in 15, so I had 3 years of trying to recover, going in and out of work, and it just didn't work. So I was finally medically discharged in September 15, sadly.
So you were, forgive me the language here, you were a medic, a paramedic?
Yes, yeah.
So you would be essentially on the front line. I can only imagine seeing terrible things.
Yeah, we went to the point of wounding. So whether that be an individual or a mass casualty situation, we would be the first, apart from the medics on the ground with the groups, we would be the first people. So we're flying on a helicopter. More often than not, certainly on the last tour, we were getting shot at, trying to bring the helicopter down. We landed. We were then under fire at that point as well. So that wasn't what I expected when I first joined up, because I want to save lives, not take them. So that was difficult for me. And then just seeing the amount of trauma that you saw, and not just our guys, not just the coalition serving people, it was the children and the women, and I got caught up in it as well, and it was horrendous.
And in terms of that experience and the preparation, the training that you'd had, the things that you'd already seen in Bahrain and the Falklands, was it like this was a completely different planet you were arriving in? Was it as if that all that training had been worthless?
The training was definitely not worthless. I'll say that right out. So in the Falklands, I was mainly primary healthcare. So we were in the medical centre dealing with blisters and various. We had a few emergencies like a car crash, which, a vehicle smashes, and heart attack sort of thing. So it was all medical things. So in Bahrain, a lot of my time, again, it was primary healthcare and taking people and organising hospitals with the local hospitals. So a lot of it was admin. So my first clinical role, it was just so full on, and the training, they can train you as much as they did, and they were phenomenal. We had amputees in, they did all sorts of different scenarios with helicopters coming in and such like. But until you get out there and you smell real burning, rotting flesh, you smell the blood, you see the sights, you're also under fire at the same real live fire, rather than in a training scenario. Nothing can prepare you for any of that, and getting the dust in your teeth and up your nose, and it's just.
It sounds like an absolute sensory overload.
Yes, totally.
Is there one thing, or was it about just it was everything, or was it that you were thinking, I'm seeing something terrible and there's the sights and the smells, but at the same time someone's also trying to kill you, and at the same time you're also thinking, I'm going to have to go on to the next things after that? At
the time, so when I first went out there, the adrenaline was running, and we were on call sort of, for 24 hours, and you appear, your anxiety levels are way above where they should be. So for that 24 hours, you're expecting something to happen, and you go into autopilot, your training kicks in. I mean, my first ever call, I just froze. When I saw the trauma, so I saw a guy, and I'll just be blunt because it will explain things, half of his face was just missing. So I struggled with that. I'd never seen it before ever, and I just froze. And it took the nurse to nudge me and say, right, come on, we need you. Let's just focus, you know. But after that, you just go into autopilot. And every shift, at the end of every shift, I used to remember I couldn't wait for the other shift to come on and pick the weapons up, because as soon as they'd done that, I was coming off shift. So the relief of that, but then the anxiety grew, ready for the next shift. So you never came down from that.
And that was from day one?
Yeah.
Did you get a sense, or did people advise you that, you know, there was like a point where you were, you know, you get used to it, you get into the new routine, you get used to seeing the things, and you were thinking, okay, give me a couple of weeks and then I'll see whether or not it's settled down?
I think because you go into autopilot and the fact that you don't want to let your team down, you just get on with it. And while you're out there, you do get on with it. And your team, and my team, that are certainly on that last tour, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here, you know, to sort of get through it. I wouldn't have got through that tour. And I struggled. So for the first two and a half tours, it was autopilot. Then I realised there's actually something wrong with me, because I wasn't sleeping. I was having strange dreams. I was actually, every time I ran off the back of the helicopter, I didn't care if I got shot, because if I got shot, that meant I could go home or I'd be dead. So it didn't matter. Do you know what I mean? So it got that bad that's how I felt. So for the most part, you're on autopilot, and then you're just praying for the days to get quicker, and then the end of the tour.
It's a strange, and people have talked about this on the programme before. It's not that at that moment it's a feeling of being suicidal, but that feeling of, if I did die, it wouldn't be that bad. Do
you know, it wasn't for me, I want to end my life. It was, I want to end the nightmare. And however I can end that nightmare, that's what I wanted to do. And it wasn't me actually doing it. The fear of running off the back of the helicopter just went. Because to me, it didn't matter what happened when I got off, apart from the patient itself. And, you know, you're focusing on that. If I'd have got shot, so be it, you know. And that's what it was. It wasn't about wanting to take my own life. It was wanting to end the nightmare that I was living in.
Who did you tell within your sort of work
Nobody on
colleagues?
tour.
Nobody on tour?
No. I went to the end of the tour. There was a girl called Anushka who was the nurse, who I did say I was struggling with, but I didn't go into detail, because it's all right you going through it and you're struggling. What you don't want is then to put that on somebody else while they have to go through quite a difficult tour as well, you know, for their own reasons. So I didn't want to put that on anybody else, and basically took it to the end. And then I got home, and I crashed and burned. It just all...
And when you say you crashed and burned, when you came on the marathon, you spoke to us about sort of that the return to Civvy Street.
Yes.
It's a phrase we used a lot, actually, as part of that marathon. Yeah. That idea that there is a mindset that you're in, which when you get off the plane, back at home and return to the civilian life, your mind is still programmed into military mode.
Totally.
And that played out then in your life in terms of returning to do, quote, the normal things, like going down to the shops, and even the butchers was causing you problems.
Yeah, I couldn't go into a butcher shop because of the smell of blood, and any sort of click of a radio, because we used to get a call from the radio, sort of, you know, manual radios, and the fire alarm. So every time the fire alarm went off, and, you know, in workplaces they do tests every week, or they should do, you know, and there was triggers. There was far too many triggers. But the first thing that I thought about when I got back was... the first thing many people think of is how green everything is and how lovely everything is again. But then it doesn't seem real. And then after your, you know, specified 9 days off, depending on how long you've done on tour, you then go back and you sit behind a desk that's, you know, a typical brown desk with a blue screen of dividing you, a blue chair, and you've got a Dell computer on your desk, you know, the standard office setup. And you're expected to just crack on when 9 days earlier... You've got knee-deep on a battlefield in an Afghan farmer's field trying to save somebody's life, you know, and it doesn't commute. The two just don't marry up. And that there needed to be some proper, you know, bringing you back into reality.
It's almost like a decompression zone.
Yeah.
That you could sit yourself in while your brain recognised that you are back in Blighty. And
they do a standard decompression. And I say standard because it caters for... the majority, and a lot of people that go on tour go as big groups, whereas if you're medical or catering or various parts like that, you go as an individual that's then plotted into that big group who all know each other and you don't know anybody. So when they all come back for decompression in Cyprus, they all still know each other, and you know them a little bit, but you're on your own, and that's like 1 or 2 days, and then you're back.
So you return to civilian life. You sit yourself down in front of your Dell computer.
Yeah.
At what point do you then realise that those thoughts, those sort of issues that you've been considering both while you were there and that had come back with you, at what point did you think they're not going away, that this isn't going to be something which I can now move on from?
It kind of wasn't me that realised I was forced into the situation because my boss was talking to me and I just wanted to push her face through the window. It's not appropriate. So, I was getting so angry so quickly, and then I was on the floor in tears. My ex-fiancé now, because he left because he couldn't cope with it. And in a way, I don't blame him for doing that because I completely changed. But I was having nightmares, I was wet in the bed, I was found in the middle of and I was having panic attacks in the street. I couldn't go out shopping, I wasn't socialising. And in the end, the help was kind of forced. I was sent off on leave with some tablets, with somebody else who was sent on leave on tablets, and they took the tablets and they're not here anymore. And then I got back, I couldn't adjust, a couple of years of intensive therapy, EMDR, various other things. And then it was decided that because of the weapons, and I couldn't really touch a weapon again, and various other things, that I was no longer conducive to service. So I left, got the diagnosis of PTSD, and that was that. I was out. And it was only after then when I started coming out of the bubble. I called it the PTSD bubble because you just feel like you're in a bubble. You just live in a nightmare. You don't see what's going on around you, but you don't really know what's going on inside that bubble.
From what you just said there, it sounds like that was like a couple of years?
Yeah, it took so long.
Does that feel like they were the worst couple of years? So all those issues about, the smell of blood, the click of the radios, the fire alarms, that was over a 2-year period.
Some of that still continues.
Right,
and with a lot of people with PTSD is, unless you've been blessed with some, if you get it quick enough or various other reasons why treatment would then work, they still find triggers, but you get coping mechanisms to deal with them. So, yeah, you kind of avoid them, but you can still work around them, if that makes sense, and you can still live a decent life, and you can live with PTSD, and you can live with any other mental illness, quite a fulfilling life if you learn how to cope with what happens to you when things happen, and that's what happened.
You talked about the breakdown of a relationship there.
Yeah.
What were those other low points within that time where things really seemed to be going off track, both within the friends group around you, but also within your own mind?
Initially at the time, I had no idea. And when I sort of came to it where my head was in a place where I was kind of thinking for myself again, I know it sounds bizarre, but you go on autopilot again, but in a different way. And you realise that some of your friends aren't there anymore because you've perhaps upset them. They don't understand, because when something happens, it's hard enough for you to understand. But actually, when you consider you've got other people who have always known you to be this laid-back, chilled-out person, never upsets anybody, never says boo to a goose, to suddenly change and be really angry one minute and then just an emotional wreck the second, and not turn up, they'll ask you for events, and eventually they're going to stop asking you because you're not turning up. They don't understand, actually, you want to turn up, but you can't. Because, you're going to have a panic attack, or something might happen where it triggers a response in you. You have a flashback or something. They don't understand that. The easiest thing, I guess, is to then withdraw from that situation. But not everybody did, and I have to say that, there's a few people that stood by me, even when they didn't understand what was going on.
Can I ask you about PTSD as you experienced it?
Yeah.
Does it come down to the things that you saw and witnessed? What I mean by that is you talked about the phrase flashback there.
Yeah.
So is it about trigger points that are memories? So the idea of leaving the house, does that throw you into mind the point of, I don't know, the helicopter doors opening and things like that? Are you constantly leaping backwards?
So leaving the house for me there were so many different things. So there was noises, too many noises, certain smells. So it isn't just what you see, and with anything that's traumatic. So PTSD is witnessing a traumatic event or a various, sustainable series of events. So it's just sounds and anything that triggers you. And you don't. I didn't step out the front door thinking I'm going to step back into Afghanistan, but you step out the front door hesitantly, but thinking there could be a trigger here initially, and it could be a sight, smell, whatever. And something will trigger in your mind, and whatever your mind does, because it's not processed, that memory, all the emotions are still attached to it. And then they just come out and you've got no control over them.
But that's another thing, the fear of the trigger, not just the fear of the actual thing. It's the waiting to hear something or waiting to smell something.
And then that's another symptom is avoidance. So you avoid things because you don't want to put yourself or other people in that situation. So you avoid going out. I avoided going to the butchers. I avoided going into busy shopping centres, certainly supermarkets. And you avoid things, and that's another thing that you struggle with.
You mentioned the Invictus Games. Is this where your recovery really, really sort of kicks it up a notch, Michelle?
I'd kind of recovered, and I was living and I was doing what I needed to do, but I had no focus, I had no drive, I had nothing, because spending so long in the military, everything was structured. You had friends there. I could close my door in the mess, but then if I opened it and walk into another room, I could go into the bar and there'd be people there. So for me, the whole banter and the camaraderie and that was missing. I was lonely and I had nothing. I had no focus, no drive. So this email came through for Invictus Games and I deleted it because I've never competed in any sport ever in my life. And I thought, no. So I just deleted it. Came through again in December, deleted it again, completely changed it. And then in January it came through, but it also said you don't have to be an athlete to apply for this. And I thought, oh, okay, winner, so I'll do it. What have I got to lose? I knew a couple of other people that had done it, but they were sports people, and I thought, what? Let's just go with it. I was under no illusions that I wasn't, I was never going to win a medal. So I turned up for the first session in February. And I was like a rabbit in headlights. I was so unfit. I'd not looked after myself. I wasn't eating. So when I come in, I was just eating toast or whatever because it was ease of, and I put on so much weight. I got on the rowing machine and I was rowing and then throwing up. And then for the first few sessions, that's all I was doing, rowing and throwing up. But I carried on. And I decided that I didn't want to do it after that first one because I was like, there's no way I can do this. And I spoke to the girl next to me, I watched her, and she was rowing away and she was singing to herself. She had headphones on and she was singing Dolly Parton 9 to 5. She had a massive smile on her face and I was like, I want to be that. So we started chatting and it turns out her name's Michelle and she's from Wigan too.
Right.
So we ended up travelling together. So she convinced me to just give it another go and I did. And I've not looked back. I went to the trials, so I chose rowing and powerlifting. Went to the trials, competed in the trials, and then I got through to the team, and I was totally shocked because I 100% didn't expect to get through at all. I was the weakest rower and the weakest powerlifter, but in my mind, I was strong because I wanted to keep going with it, and I managed to walk away. I was going to walk away a few times, and I wasn't looking to the games. I was looking to the next training session and just giving it a PB, and it made me eat properly. It gave me focus, and it gave me the fire back in my belly that I needed. I was getting fit again, and it's phenomenal.
So was this ahead of Toronto?
Yes, I went to Toronto. Yeah.
So the Toronto Games, which weren't that long ago,
no,
were they?
No, October.
And in terms of your performance when you got out there, was it about your performance there, or was it simply that you became part of something else again?
Do you know, and they've always stressed, so it's about your journey, all the way through Invictus Games, even up until the trials. If you don't get picked for the main team, you're already part of the bigger team. And that, for me, was enough. You're part of that one family, and that's where I felt comfortable again. So I chose, and they knew that they chose people, they obviously chose people that were going to win medals, but also chose people that actually would benefit from that journey. And I came 5th in powerlifting, the whole lot in the competition, which was just unbelievable. And yeah, with the rowing as well, I came 14th, I think, on one of them, on my 1 minute, and I think 21st on the 4 minutes. I didn't come last, which for the first time in my life in any sporting event, I didn't come last. So
congratulations!
I know, right?
What do you think was the benefit when you think about the life that you've been living with PTSD, some of the issues you still live with at the moment? What did Invictus do for you, do you think?
It got me out, certainly out of my house. It got me talking to people again, having a laugh. I have not had such a genuine smile on my face in such a long time. You've gone through so much, and sadly I'd lost my granddad and my nan and various things as well. So it was quite a tough time. And to just go somewhere where, do you know what? Yeah, I had PTSD, but, it doesn't matter because other people have it, and they just treat you as the person. The banter comes, they can take the mick out of you, you feel comfortable again. And that for me was everything. And to have that genuine smile on my face and actually feeling the best I've felt since 2012.
Invictus is a relatively new phenomenon. Prince Harry, the man behind it as well. If that hadn't have been there, do you had a sense of where you might have been in yourself?
Do you know, I can't even say, you know, I was trying to go to work, but then I couldn't keep the job because, and I was trying with the ambulance service and stuff, but I just couldn't cope with waiting for calls. My tolerance levels are really low now, so when people were phoning up for ambulances that actually didn't warrant it, my response maybe wasn't that good. So I wasn't fitting in that world anymore, sadly. So I was jumping from thing to thing, and I couldn't settle. I couldn't focus. I had nothing about me, and maybe I'd have still been sat in my house now. But I'm just blessed that I'm not, and I'm part of this big thing now because we've started training again now already. So it doesn't stop.
You got the bug for it as well, and also you got the tattoo.
I got there.
I am the master of my fate, and I am the captain of my soul. There you go.
Yes, indeed.
You must have felt strongly about it. The fact you've got it emblazoned now across your forearms.
Absolutely.
And
I'm very
that's
proud
important,
to be as well.
particularly when you're doing rowing, right? Your
Yep.
arms have got to look good.
Yeah.
You know, for the TV cameras and everything in between. Invictus one organisation, one event as well. Can we mention Safa
Yes,
as well? And it's is it Eva?
Eva Graves, yeah.
So Eva, who you knocked back at the first attempt, is that right? Tried to get you involved in the organisation.
Yeah, so I received a letter. So I was off. I'd been sent off sick, waiting to be discharged, and basically I hadn't really heard from anybody. I was based in Cranwell, and I ended up back at Hindley Green in Wigan, and I hadn't heard anything, and I was shut myself. I wasn't opening my mail or anything. And eventually, this letter came on, and I thought I'm going to have to open it. So I opened it, and it was a letter from Safa to say we're discharging you from our service because we haven't heard from you. And I frantically got on my email and I said, please don't discharge me. I really need you, because at that point, I'd got to the point where I'd planned and I was going to take my own life. I was that low that everything was planned, and the only thing that stopped me at that point was my granddad. But I didn't want to live anymore. I didn't want to continue with this nightmare. I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't doing anything, and I didn't want to live. So 2 days after that, Eva was stood at my door, you know, and she was like, right, come on, let's sort it out. So we went up and we sat having coffee and she stayed and then we put a plan in place the next time she came down. She got all my uniform back from Cranwell because I couldn't face going back down there. Yeah, it was unbelievable. So, yeah, I think, wow, yeah, Eva, amazing lady.
Is it strange to think that someone been trying to contact you, that even though you're at that absolutely emotional low ebb, that somebody presumably somewhere had got the wrong email? I don't know, or house address they hadn't.
Something had obviously got
open.
wrong. So what normally happens is the SAFA is supposed to, or different, not the SAFA that contacted me, but unit SAFA are supposed to contact you every month to make sure you're okay. So because I'd moved about and wasn't very giving with my contact details, nobody could get in touch, I guess, and I didn't want them to get in touch, but I needed the help. So they just sent me a letter to say, we're now taking you off our books. And I don't know how they got my final address, but I'm glad they did, you know, and we wouldn't be talking now. I wouldn't be here. So, yeah, if they hadn't have done that. So from a mistake that is made random, you know, day after day after day, has come this. So, yeah.
That's amazing. So were they the guys and girls who then put you in touch with Invictus? Was it that network, or did all these things sort of happen all separately?
This all started separately. So Safa helped me get out my front door again because I couldn't even step outside my front door. So Eva would come and visit us, and then we'd make small steps to do things, firstly around the flat, and then, right, let's go for a coffee outside of the flat. And so there were small steps, and she set me up trying to get some work, you know, even just work placements, voluntary and things just for now. But just her visit gave me the spur on I needed to actually say, no, I'm not taking my life. There's something that can be done here. And that's, I guess that's all the kick up the bottom I needed, to be fair. But then I received some therapy from Eva and Nick, and I then moved forward. And now, yes, I do have anger management sessions still. Because of various things that have happened throughout my life, and I'm going to have various sort of bits of therapy because I've got other things I need to deal with as well, which happens in life, you know. If you go through certain things, you do need to get the support for it, and I've got no shame in saying that. But then I was part of Band of Brothers, Help for Heroes Band of Brothers, who then sent the Invictus email, and they were the ones that instigated that and supported and help Prince Harry with the Invictus Games.
Right at the start of our conversation, you talked about the difficult childhood that you'd had.
Yep.
You mentioned there when you talk about counselling.
Yeah.
Is that something you now view as like a holistic thing where you think about how you grew up and your experience growing up as well as the military stuff, or do you compartmentalise those differently?
No, I think the experiences that you have in the early years can have a knock-on effect, and they do have a knock-on effect. They've had a knock-on. So, and I will be open about it. I was sexually abused as a child, and that has had can't even speak now. Has had a knock-on effect in later years with relationships and such like. So, even now I'm 45 years old and I'm dealing with that now, and I have attempted to deal with it in the past. But now, because I've had a refocus and my life is important to me, I want to get every little bit of it right. And if there are parts of me that are still not right, I'm still struggling with sort of, the anxiety. I had an eating disorder, and that comes back every now and again. And now's the time to sort it all out. And there's no shame in doing that. And I'll say to anybody, actually, it doesn't matter where you've come from in life, and things will affect you because it's part of how the human body works. So we all accept that the body's made up of like 4 or 5 different systems. You've got the cardiovascular system, you've got the digestive system, you've got the nervous system. So you can accept that other things go wrong. So why can't you accept that the mind does in fact go wrong? And I'm now hopefully trying to put that right for myself as much as I can do.
Michelle, I think from the sexual abuse, eating disorders, witnessing awful, terrible things, and then subsequently reliving them through post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, there'll be people who will just think, wow, the fact that you are able to step out your front door again is an absolute incredible thing. The fact that you're able to take on the world in the Invictus Games in Toronto is something else as well. How do you describe where your life is now? Then you feel like you're very much on a journey, but you've seen the very, very lows, but also you get a sense that you've also had the experience of some highs as well, some positive things.
Oh, phenomenal! Yeah, I mean, I was blessed to have some amazing support and have some amazing people stay in my life throughout this whole process. I've had the support from my family, and that is really, really important for anyone. But also, I've now got an opportunity where I'm in a really good place to say to people, actually, you can get beyond it, that you can still stay standing and you are worth fighting for. Your life is worth fighting for, but you've got to put your hand on your heart, feel it beating and realise that yourself, And it takes, I guess, some strength to do that. When you're in the midst of things, it's hard to listen to somebody like me saying, oh, you can get through it. But actually knowing that I've been through it will give them a little bit of hope. And this is where my new business comes into play as well, in that I'm now delivering mental health awareness and things, because I think it adds credibility if you've been there. And I want to be able to turn what has been such a negative experience in my life into something so positive for other people. And then I guess that's a little bit of healing for me as well.
I was going to say, and it's a good point to leave it on. If people want to find out more information about you or the work that you're doing now, where can they go?
I'm all over them. So I have a blog which I've been running since 2014, which is michellesandersonptsd.net. I'm on Facebook. People can reach me on Facebook if they want. I've got a foundation called Behind the Mask Foundation, which supports other people and helps them to get through things that I was struggling with as well. And Mentis Training and Consultancy is my work.
Brilliant
so
stuff.
Just Google my name and they'll come up.
I can confirm she's all over the internet. Absolutely. There's all kinds of stuff on there.
But for all the right reasons.
Absolutely. Oh, your celebrity mates and everything that you've been hanging around with. Thank you for your time today.
An absolute pleasure.
Really
Thank
appreciate you coming on the
opportunity.
programme, and thanks for sort of sharing the work that you do. And we'll get all the links to Mentis and those organisations as well
Great.
up on our social media.
Great. And happy to speak to anybody.
Absolutely. And thank you for being part of episode 50 of Mental Health Monday. Really
Pleasure.
appreciate it.
Radio City Talk. Tackling the stigma.
Let's hear about an event which is taking place at the Bluecoat, and we're going to be hearing all about it with one of the curators, but also one of the artists involved in it as well. The event is called Journeys in Mind, and curator Fran Gill-Smith joins us on the programme. Fran, thank you for your time. Great to see you.
Hi, Mick.
Journeys in Mind. Tell us the idea behind it.
So, it's happening at the Bluecoat Display Centre, which is based in College Lane, and it's an exhibition which explores personal journeys and experiences of mental health from the perspective of designer makers. So it could be experiences they've had personally, or it could be experiences of working with people who've encountered those issues, or people that they've lived with who have.
Okay, so I mean, it's interesting this because some people might go in there unaware of what it's about and see it as just, also, an exhibition, and they're taking it in as a piece of artwork or as a piece of, design. What do you think people will see? What will people read into, and what specific items might people witness?
Well, there's some quite interesting pieces in the show. I mean, obviously, initially when people walk in, it's a dynamic space, and the exhibition area is actually in the back section of the gallery. But the first piece which greets you is a piece which touches on Alzheimer's. So the maker who made it, that her father was actually diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And it's actually several bell jars in a row. And inside each bell jar, there's an image inside of what represents a memory. And as you go along, each bell jar becomes more and more obscured. So people will start to see that there are different themes from Alzheimer's, and then there's other people who are working with themes such as anxiety. There's a jeweller called Harriet Knight, and her work is about the concealment of anxiety. And she's actually used wood and different grids and layers to indicate that sense of feeling closed in and the sense of feeling trapped.
I think it's really interesting because we speak many times on this program about sort of representations of mental health issues or things which are going on in your mind which you might not be able to necessarily describe to somebody. Yeah. But this is using art design as a means of explanation and putting it out there. Do you think for the artists involved, we're going to ask one in a minute, that there's a cathartic process involved in this for them to actually put something into reality, something which previously had been sitting on their mind?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, quite a few of the makers have said that through the making experience, it has been very cathartic and that it's allowed them to really explore their feelings. But something really beautiful has come out of it at the end. There's a jeweller called Sue Gregor. She makes these beautiful acrylic pieces, and she's made a whole body of work because she went through personal issues herself and also through her family. So she started to engage with mindfulness, and she started to look at nature, and she actually started to use things like leaves and petals to create jewellery. And in doing that, she said that she actually developed a lot of confidence herself, and actually then she went on to mentor people through the Prince's Trust, mentoring like young business people. So she's giving them confidence in themselves.
Let's bring one of the designers in. Tabitha Moses, who's from Liverpool. Tabitha, thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us on the programme. Are you a designer? Are you an artist?
I call myself an artist, but even that feels a bit limiting. I'm a maker, I suppose.
You're a maker. You're all part of the Journeys in Mind exhibition as well. What is it of your work that people will see if they head down to the Bluecoat?
They'll see some pieces from a series I made called Threshold, The Sublime Skin. And that's 3 embroidered pieces and then 3 sculptural, 3-dimensional pieces. And they're all about the skin as a threshold between the inner and the outer world, and how the skin can betray inner turmoil, inner trauma.
Is that based on your own experiences of issues that you've faced, or is it based on family experiences, friends, colleagues?
Well, actually, it's not. It's not consciously based on my issues, but some of my issues came out through it. But it's based on interviews I did with a couple of friends who have one as eczema and one had psoriasis during a really which began during a really awful year that she had, where a granddad died and a relationship broke down. Then the other friend who has eczema, she definitely finds that it flares up during times of emotional stress. So in these, I interviewed them both, and then I took phrases from the interviews and I embroidered these phrases, and I also embroidered the patterns of the flakes of skin of psoriasis and eczema. So I looked at the actual skin condition as a sort of decorative pattern, and so I embroidered the patterns of the skin conditions on the fabric, and then behind there that you can just see as you move across the pieces, you can see the text written. And so there are phrases like because you feel it's your little job to keep everyone happy. And what else? There was I don't understand why I let it get so bad. So just little phrases that have been plucked out. And then in the sculptural pieces, I've made things that are sort of based on limbs and parts of the body, stuffed with sawdust and in very muted colours, and then stuck with I've used entomology pins that you use in museums to stick the insects.
Yeah, butterflies. And
Yeah,
things like that.
yeah. So I've used those pins and vintage beads and sequins to create the patterns of eczema and psoriasis moving across the skin. And the titles of those pieces come from the interviews with the skin, with the friends.
In terms of the friends, then have they seen the work? Have they been given a preview
They
of
have,
it?
yeah,
What
yeah.
Did they go? You got that from our conversation?
Well-
Were they understanding of what it is you created?
Oh yeah, definitely. Both of them are artists themselves, actually. So they were really they were happy to be part of it. One of them hadn't had psoriasis for years, and then it flared up again after I interviewed her. So hopefully that wasn't a traumatic event for her.
It's interesting that idea that skin, because off the face of it you think skin. It's skin, isn't it? But then skin does tell you a million and one different stories, the variety of skin, both locally, nationally, globally as well. But also that idea that actually for a lot of people, if you are suffering or your mental health has got a particular issue, one of the first things that you might notice might be the change in your skin, and that step from the mental to the physical as well. I imagine for a lot of people is that idea of the threshold. Maybe there is more to the skin than we originally thought.
Absolutely. And one of the things I was looking at initially was hysteria, and how in the 19th century it became more medicalised and written about. And one of the doctors used to hold these sessions where he'd have lectures and bring in one of his patients from in Paris. It was in Salpêtrière Hospital, and this patient had a condition where if he touched the skin, it would what am I trying to say? It would raise up in like red welts, and he'd write on the skin and write on this patient's skin.
Wow.
So the drama of that really was what captured my interest, really. And then I wanted to bring it more up to date and use a contemporary example.
Yeah. And of course the other thing is like language, the way language is used in this country and the way people talk about mental health. If somebody is a bit thin-skinned or someone's thick-skinned, that's something we associate. We're not talking about their actual skin, are we? We're talking about their sort of mental resilience.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
not. Tabitha Moses with us on Radio City Talk. We've got Fran Gill-Smith as well, the curator. Now this is on at the College Lane entrance of the Bluecoat. How long is it on for, Fran? And is there a fee to get in? What's
it's
the
free
story?
entry, and it's on until the 3rd of March. And just to mention, we've also got a free event which is happening later in the run of the show. So it's a Meet the Makers event, and Tabitha will actually be speaking about her work alongside one of the other makers in the show called Jill Curry, who's a printmaker. They'll be both talking about their work on the 27th of February at 10 a.m. So it is a free event, but you do need to book. So if you do want to come along, if you give us a call, it's 0151 709 4014, and we'll also be going to visit Tabitha's studio as well.
Oh, fantastic stuff as well. There you go. Tabitha's just found out about that now. She's going to tidy up.
Yeah.
So basically, it's on now at the Bluecoat, and it's running through until Saturday the 3rd of March. But there's a Meet the Makers event as well, where you can go and sort of, why don't you go and check it out? And then if there's a particular piece of art or a particular artist where you're thinking, absolutely, both Tabitha and
Fran Gill-Smith.
No, sorry, Tabitha. Who's the other artist who's going to be there?
Oh, sorry, it's Jill Curry. She's a printmaker.
Jill Curry's going to be there as well. That's the event that's happening on the 27th of February at 10 a.m. And that number again, 0151 709 4014. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brilliant. 0151 709 4014. Head down to the Bluecoat. College Lane entrance for that one as well. Journeys in Mind. Tabitha Moses, thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us. And Fran Gill-Smith, curator of the show. We really appreciate you joining us on Mental Health Monday.
Thank you.
And that wraps up another edition of Mental Health Monday from Radio City Talk. If you want to listen to that again, of course you can do. Just hit rewind and re-listen. You can also download the previous 49 episodes of Mental Health Monday, or head to the website radiocitytalk.co.uk. Click on the Mental Health Monday marathon link, and you'll find details about the marathon, all the interviews that we did, of course, over the 24 hours, and how you can re-listen to all them. That's radiocitytalk.co.uk. And Mental Health Monday continues next week from Radio City Talk. Thanks for checking me out. My name's Mick Coyle.
Mental Health Monday on Radio City Talk. Tackling the stigma.